we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, I'm Victoria. I'm Girlboss's executive editor, and I'll be your host for the next hour. And yeah, just as a reminder, today's session with Semrush and Girlboss is all about why you're destined to become a full stack marketer. Trust, it is a good thing, we promise. So today's agenda is jam-packed, so a little TLDR. We're going to be talking about why marketing roles are merging and how to keep up, how to level up your skills without burning out, the best tools and hacks to help you work smarter, not harder, and how to become the marketer no one wants to lose. It's going to be juicy. But more importantly, you can obviously see three brilliant women standing in front of me. And I'm thrilled to introduce them to you all. So on the bottom left, we have Rita Cedre, the head of Academy at Semrush. Amanda Getz in the top right corner. She's a two-time founder, four-time CMO, brand builder, and content creator. And then we have Brianna Arps, who is a brand marketing strategist and the founder and CEO of Mudo, an award-winning fragrance brand. Now, before we hear from these brilliant women, we just have a few housekeeping reminders. So as you can see, the chat function is not live right now. We won't have one, just to keep it as distraction-free and seamless as possible. But if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, if you go to the right of your screen, you'll see a little question symbol. If you just click on that, you can add your questions there. And at the end of the session, we'll have a little live Q&A and we'll go through and answer some of the most popular questions. And also too, if you are going to be sharing anything from this webinar today, whether it's an IG story or like a LinkedIn recap, please post using the hashtag FSM That's FSM webinar. So full stack marketing webinar, FSM webinar. Okay, last thing is we get lots of questions of, will this be recorded? Is this recorded? Will you get the recording? The answer is yes. So as soon as the session is over, check your inboxes and you'll get the link to the webinar. So you won't miss a thing, don't worry. Okay, let's get into today's conversation now that all the housekeeping and everything is all done. Okay, so I'm going to ask you all this question, but Rita, maybe you could kick us off. How do you define a modern marketer in 2025?
Fabulous. That's the adjective I would use. No, I'm just kidding. I like to think that in 2025 and beyond, a modern marketer is two things. It's full stack and it is AI powered. Like, I think we will see, and this is part of the conversation we'll have here today, I think with the advances in AI technology, we will see a lot of marketing teams become smaller, mightier teams. At the same time, we're going to see the continual expansion of digital marketing channels and people finding even smaller micro communities online. And I think the combination of both those things makes it so that marketers will become full stack in the sense that they will have to continue to manage not just one channel, like social or content strategy or SEO, but actually a multitude of channels all at once.
Amanda, do you want to share your thoughts too?
Yeah, I'll build off of that. The word I keep coming back to is connection. And so I keep saying chief connection officer, because really marketing has to sit at the intersection now of data, the narrative, the product, the community, and the team behind it. And the more that a modern marketer can understand that they're the linchpin, the stronger they're going to be for the company.
I will piggyback off what both of these outstanding women have said today. But at Mudo, a CPG-focused company, we like to say that the modern marketer is value-driven, but they're also insight-led and impact-focused. So across these three prongs, everything that we do at Mudo and what modern marketers do needs to kind of like tick each one of those boxes. And we say insight-led, but also we don't forget about intuition. Sometimes our intuition, regardless of what data may say, can also lead to great results as well. So piggybacking off what these two women said, but also adding values and impact.
Amazing. Now, Brianna, while we're on you right now, I'd love to know what are some of the biggest misconceptions? Let me try that again. What's the biggest misconception that people have about working in marketing right now?
Yes. Okay. So thank God for social media. Like, thank God we're all tapped into social and we can see the buzzy, fun campaigns that a lot of brands and businesses are doing. But still, I think a misconception that people fall into, especially as they're launching businesses and brands, is that a one size fits all strategy is all you need. Like, we have folks on LinkedIn who are promising these flow charts and these diagrams and the tips and the tricks and the know-hows on how these massive brands have scaled super fast. But applying strategy takes a more detailed approach. Like, it can't work for everyone. And it's about picking and choosing what you think may work and adapting it to fit your unique brand model, your audience, your voice and tone. And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that I like to caution young marketers against, is ignoring the flash and really focusing on the impact.
Amazing. We have still some time. So Amanda, I'd love to know, what are some skills that are non-negotiables for you as a marketer?
Oh my goodness. Okay. So the first and foremost non-negotiable needs to be, you have to be the voice of the customer, because you're the one that's doing the social listening. You're the one that's doing the customer interviews, and you're the voice of the customer with product, with sales, with the executive team. So number one is being the advocate and the voice of the customer. Number two is being comfortable running and communicating experimentation, because I think that is such a powerful thing as a marketer to say, this is an experiment. Here's what we believe is going to happen. Here's how long we're going to run it. How does it potentially going to impact LTV, CAC, whatever, but being able to communicate this, because again, like, I think when you're sitting at the intersection of all these different leaders and experts, you're able to communicate, advocate why brand is so important. So experimentation. Then I would say being able to build the story of the brand and then tell it and advocate for it both internally and externally is so important. You're the one driving the manifesto and why the company exists, why this brand needs to exist in the world today. And on top of that, brief building, being able to build a brief, not only within AI, but also agency briefs. You will see that over and over, especially as you start to bring AI into your organization, the full stack marketers who can really write a detailed brief to communicate the reasons we exist, the voice of the customer, those are the types of non-negotiables that we're going to see today. And then the two I would add, obviously we know life cycle mapping, just understanding the whole journey, like all the way from what they're feeling emotionally as a customer, all the way to like, how you get them to advocate for the brand over and over again. And the last one, and I know I keep kind of reinforcing this, is stakeholder fluency. I think a non-negotiable in my career has been, okay, how do I bring everyone together and understand why what we're doing is important, why this product is important, why this campaign is important, and what it's going to do. And as the teams get smaller, the role of a modern marketer is really going to be, how do I communicate that and translate all these outcomes into the words that they understand? So stakeholder fluency, being fluent in speaking finances language, products language, engineering's language, and sitting at that intersection.
Is there anything else anyone else wanted to add?
I'll add a quick little tidbit. I think people sometimes think of marketers as people who have their heads in spreadsheets behind stuffy desks all day, or working from coffee shops just like in their laptops. But really, the best marketers are the people who have boots on the ground, who take that data and those insights that they might gather behind a screen, but they're actually going into their communities, having real conversations with their audiences, like literally boots on the ground. And I think from an early stage brand perspective, that's something at Mujo that we do not want to lose, is that I'm really visible. And I think you have to toe the line from founder focused and led brands from being like oversharing to being an oversharer. But people want to know, like, who's doing what behind the scenes And I think that helps to build a real rapport with your audience and your community, but then also having that trust in the relationship and being boots on the ground. You can learn in real time what strategy isn't working, and what is actually driving the needle. So we're not just stuffy people behind desks. We actually care and get out in the field and do real work.
Amazing. No, that's so important. It's like it really humanizes the brand, and people want to connect with people. And you're more likely, especially in like a D2C brand, to want to repurchase and keep coming back to a brand that you feel like you know personally, which is really cool. And I feel like Mudo's doing a great job with that. Okay, so now we have another juicy Q for all of you. Can you each walk us through your current marketing stack? So, for example, what are the tools and platforms that you literally cannot do your work without? Anyone want to? Yeah, feel free, whoever wants to jump in.
I can start. I'll start us off. Well, I think this is an interesting one because I'm a fractional CMO, and I work at different companies of various sizes. And so the way I want to communicate my answer, first and foremost, is if you're going into a company, when you're thinking about tech stack, it's always about jobs to be done. What am I actually trying to achieve here versus like having the, okay, here's my grocery list of tech that I'm bringing everywhere. Every company that I work at is different. So I'm going to first kind of speak in jobs to be done, and then I'll say a few, but it's like, first and foremost, project management, knowing whether that's a ClickUp plus a Notion, something that you can make sure that stakeholder management, you know what we're working on, why it's important, and who's doing what. A great CRM with email marketing and segmentation capabilities. When I've worked in CPG, my last startup was in CPG. So I lived by Klaviyo. And now as a creator, I'm in Kit, but being able to do really great segmentation. And then right now I'm big on community and micro communities and having a great software for communities. So Mighty Networks is the place that I build all of my communities on. And then analytics, obviously Semrush, Google Analytics, making sure that you can see all things through the funnel. And then experimentation, all of that through those. And then I can't live without Zapier and ChatGPT, all of my custom. Whenever I go into a company now, I build an agent that understands, that is like my co-founder as the CMO, who understands and thinks like the brand, talks like the brand, so that I can be kind of a sparring partner with that. So that's kind of my first go.
I can go next. Oh, go ahead. I agree entirely about like organizing your tech stack around jobs to be done, and like exactly how you outlined it. I think makes a lot of sense. I'm just going to add in Google Docs, because I truly believe that so many organizations just run on Google Docs. And for both my teams, my personal work, my family runs on Google Docs. So I would say that. And then for anyone creating a lot of content, I'm sure like you have either a Claude or a ChatGPT in there. I'm partial to Claude because I think it's nicer, but I think it's probably in my head.
I'd add one that I've been an early adopter on. Like, I feel like I was day one customer of Canva. Like, I feel like I've been grandfathered into the pricing that no longer exists, and I hope that they just like forget about that, because I'm like literally paying nothing for all of the advanced like tools and functionality that Canva has adopted over the years. It's really crazy to see how that platform has grown, and we use it literally every single day, from creating social media assets to templatizing things. Like, we have a template for everything, internal and external facing operational stuff. So Canva is a really big one for me. Google G Suite, Box. I will also say, like, for anyone who's on the call or listening and who's like getting ready to launch a business, like, there's so many new AI tools that are launching literally every single day. But I would caution you against adopting so many tools at once, because one, there's a learning curve, but then two, you may find that they're duplicating functionality. Like, you actually don't really need things. Like, an investor will ask you, like, what's your tech stack? And like, it can be really something really super simple. It doesn't have to be something super complex or robust, as long as it works for you. That's what we've kind of learned too.
Awesome. No, that's super helpful. We do have a few, which we'll get to, some more specific questions about platforms, so we can get into that during our Q&A at the end. But that's super helpful, and I'm sure, yeah, I'm like, we love Canva at Girlboss, Google Docs, we run on it, so retweet to everything you guys said. Now, Rita, many obviously marketers feel the pressure to do it all, like content, ads, SEO, email, analytics, like it's super overwhelming, obviously. And so I'd love to know what your advice is for kind of managing all of that without burning out.
Oh, God, it's a question near and dear to my heart. I've experienced burnout myself, so it's something that I've overthought, thought like long and hard about. I think ultimately what it comes down to is like having the courage to really stop and go back to fundamentals. I think marketing has a program problem where we have programized, like, and but what I mean by that is like, there's a difference between a project and a program, or a task and a program. A program is something that you do on a recurring basis, and a test or a project is like a one-time thing that has a start and an end. We have so many things in marketing that have become programs. We're posting content every single day. We get on that as a program, and it's really hard to stop. For anyone who's posted content on social media, I bet you can relate to this. Like, I once was like, I'm posting 5 times a week. And even if the numbers weren't there where I wanted them to be, even if the impact wasn't there for every post, I had decided that I was going to do that. And it was really hard psychologically for me to stop. So I think, like, in order for us to be able to have an impact, like reduce the workload, not the impact of what we're doing, we all must be able to take a pause and assess what is working and what's not working, and double down on the things that are working and remove the stuff that's not. I think most of us marketers are operating on Pareto principle, where like 10% of the things have 90% of the impact. But like, I use the word courage because I really feel, especially when you work in an organization with a boss and a boss's boss, it takes courage to stop and like think. I think the other thing that, like, I'm hoping is a shift that happens in marketing is that we start going back to thinking more long-term in our in our strategies and what we do. If you think back to, anyone who's watched Mad Men, I think marketing was an incredibly strategic field. Like, these mostly men would sit in a room and smoke cartons and cartons of cigarettes and think about the one messaging copy point that was going to convince women that they should wash their face at night, right? They would do this for a very long time because it was a time where, marketing was very different. You had very few channels. You had a few campaigns that you were running every year, mostly run by, large advertising agencies that could afford to like pay to advertise in those channels. And now anyone has access to posting for free. So there's no friction in these new channels. And I think what it's caused is a lack of long-term thinking. And I think that the marketers that are going to win in the future are marketers that are able to stop and actually plan long-term. Activations that are bigger, more thoughtful, more interesting, more like understanding of the customer. But it goes to me, I don't know if you all of you feel the same way. To me, I always, like, the word courage comes to me because I think, again, doing that, like thinking long-term in marketing these days, actually takes courage.
Amanda, do you, pardon me, have you like any additional insights, or like dealing with, obviously you have your hands in a lot of different, I don't know what the saying is, balls, pools, you know what I mean? How do you have any additional insight for kind of managing it all without losing yourself?
I just love everything Rita just said about courage to set boundaries and to think long term. And operational excellence is so key to being a great leader, a great marketer, to be able to say and create containers for ideas and tactical ideation. Like, there are 1,000 ways to go about achieving this goal. Why do we all believe this is the one that we're going to get behind for the next 6 months? Because in the world of everything happening in AI is moving at warp speed. And I think we can all relate to that. It feels like there's a new way to use AI every single minute. The long-term thinking and the ability to reduce shiny object syndrome and to really understand the difference between level of effort and level of impact of the things that we are doing in this organization. All ideas are great ideas. We love ideas. But as a leader, it's your job to create containers for those ideas to say, okay, we're all here, stakeholder alignment. We believe this is the right product, or this is the right campaign, or this is the right activation, or this is the right channel. And we believe that we're going to test this for 6 to 12 months. And in order for us to not get a false negative, we're going to actually do this for 6 to 12 months instead of bopping around and trying 18 other things, which will not give us the data to say, was this successful? Did we try enough different micro strategies within this strategy? So I just wanted to build off of what Rita said, because I do think courage and long-term thinking are really, really powerful.
And I also think, back to what you said, Amanda, like about the sort of like stakeholder management piece, or you called it something else. You called it stakeholder, like a more elegant name earlier. It was
fluency, being able to speak their language. Yeah.
Yes, because I find that even if you have the courage to say, this is the plan that we are going to follow for the next 6 months, as you say, we're going to follow through and see if this works. If it doesn't, then we adjust, but we're not going to flip-flop like every day into a different strategy. In addition to having the courage to set the plan and stick to it, it's like understanding how to communicate that plan well to your executive leadership and to like the stakeholders that need to be supporting your plan and helping you execute on it is super important. So I would add to my answer, like internal communication, like management of like your internal stakeholders, so that when your manager wakes up in the middle of the night and says, oh my God, we need to have a Blue Sky account. Like we need to launch on Blue Sky. Like, what are we going to do? Like you have a plan that you can sort of center back to and say, remember that this is what we're focused on right now. And, you know, these are the trade-offs of us like shifting the team away from our current plan. But I think it starts with at least having a plan that is long-term and documenting it and communicating it.
Yeah, that's the operational excellence piece that I keep coming back to, where it's like, you were in that room at the beginning of this quarter or the end of last quarter where we said that these were the things we're focused on. Blue Sky, okay, great idea. We'll evaluate that. Like I always say, we'll evaluate that at the next quarterly planning session, because then somebody feels heard. I'm put it on my note where it's like, these are the parking lot things. I'm like, I've added, that's a great idea. We've added that to our parking lot for the next quarterly planning session. Great. We'll let you know. But it's like, people half the time just want to feel like their idea was heard. It doesn't, suggestions is not direction, right? Like ideas are not concrete, but most of the time, like being a great marketer is still knowing people and understanding the psychology, not only of the customers, but also the people you work with. And it's like, oh, you just wanted to feel like you were able to throw your idea in and have your 2 cents. So
totally. Or you have forgotten the plan or are fearful that it's not going to work and therefore are having a knee-jerk reaction and trying to throw out a new plan. So maybe you need reminding of what the plan is, but yeah, I think that point of like the operational excellence and like stakeholder management, it's like really truly understanding that your customer is not just the person that's buying your product, but it's also your boss and like your boss's boss.
Yep.
Thank you both so much. That was such a great, deep dive. And as you can see, Brianna, I think she's having some tech difficulties. So she'll come back in. So in the meantime, we'll just keep chatting while we wait. Kind of going off of that, and I noticed that was another question. She's back. Hi, Brianna.
Technology.
It is
so sorry.
You're good. It is not a virtual webinar when it's live. And we tested tech before this, you guys. And you know what? It always keeps us on our toes. So it's all good. We're glad you're back. You can hear us, maybe? Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. Amazing. Okay, so Rita, I have another cue for you, and again, would love everyone's thoughts too. And I noticed it was a question in the Q&A as well, so we can tackle both at once. Obviously, the marketing world moves incredibly fast, and it can be extremely overwhelming. If someone's feeling behind or is newly starting out, where's the best place to kind of start catching up on the latest trends and data? Is there like go-to platforms that you guys enjoy or creators that you like to follow? Yeah, Rita, maybe
Yeah.
you'll kick us off.
No, I can kick us off. I mean, for me, it's I spend quite a lot of time curating my LinkedIn feed. So making sure that I'm following the right people that are posting really helpful content and keeps me like up to date on everything that's happening. I'm also in general a very like I think Bozoma St. John, the former CMO of Netflix, is she still a CMO of Netflix? She said this once that like being a marketer means that you just have to be culturally savvy, being like a cultural, strategist. And so I think I'm someone who's hyper aware of culture and cultural change. It's gotten harder as I've gotten older. And I feel like the stuff that's happening in Gen Z is like, it takes more of an effort for me to like understand what's going on. But I am hyper aware of like marketing around me at all times. It's like I can't turn it off. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm working. It's that I'll be walking around the city and be like, look at that billboard. It's a really interesting message. I wonder what their value proposition is. I wonder if it's aligned to their product, blah, blah, blah. So I think being aware in your surroundings and like being tied to culture is also another way to stay on top of what's happening in marketing.
Brianna, I'd love to hear from you too, now that you're back. If you have any additional creators, platforms you like to go to stay on top.
Well, Rita, I want to say first, Rita, I love what you were saying about culture, because culture is actually like spawning whole new industries. Like new industries are being developed every single day because of cultural changes that are occurring. Like for instance, with Mudo, we're a fragrance label, right? Fragrance is nothing new. It's been around for centuries, right? But we realize that people, especially like younger consumer cohorts, Gen Z, millennials, weren't resonating with how legacy brands were talking about fragrance and what it could do. And like that sparked a whole new fragrance revolution, if you will, amongst indie brands that came in and started talking the talk and walking the walk to this very specific consumer cohort that has purchasing power beyond our wildest imagination and will be the primary drivers of this economy like very soon if they already aren't. So I love what you said about culture and making sure that you're tapping into it, but like authentically. I think also modern consumers are really smart and savvy, and they could sniff out anything that is not authentic. And so for us in finding authenticity, that's like having our boots on the ground, like going to creator meetups, events in markets that aren't really utilized. Like for instance, we're stationed in Atlanta. We started out in New York City. Atlanta is such a hub for talent, whereas people tend to focus on LA or New York City or Texas or whatever, but Atlanta and these other mid-markets that are emerging is where we find creators and community, and at the intersection of culture, creator, community, code, all of that. So I love what you said about that.
Amanda, do you have any go-to thought leaders or websites or anything, newsletters that keep you on the know?
I was just the thing that kept coming into my mind, I was thinking back to the last 10 years of my career, and it's really getting in the room with a bunch of CMOs, and it's been talking about what they're actually using, because social media is such this like highlight reel of like, these are the 10 easy steps to be this brilliant thing. And it's like, no, it's not. Like, it's so nuanced, and nothing is 10 easy steps. And sitting down and having thought partners. And I always, whenever I'm coaching someone, I'm like, okay, you need to have coaches and pacers. You need people who have done the thing that you're trying to do and can coach you with your own nuance and contextual like thing that's in front of you. But there's a coach and then there's a pacer. Pacers are there building at the same time as you, and they're in the trenches with you, because many times coaches, have this hindsight bias where they're like, well, when I did it 5 years ago, and we all know that marketing moves so fast, and also the culture, the economy, like you cannot apples to apples anyone right now who's even 6 months ahead of you. So not only having coaches who can give you expertise, but also pacers who are in it, who are testing and iterating. And I want to just keep calling out the in-person connection piece too, which I think is really important.
People are craving that obviously now more than ever, and post pandemic, even our community too is always like in person. Like you just want to feel that connection. So it's cool to see on the marketing side as well. I know AI is a big topic of conversation and something that we're all thinking about. So I've got a few questions here about AI. So we'll get into it because I have a feeling this will be, we'll dive quite deep into this. So obviously AI is changing, how we write, analyze, brainstorm, do so much of our job. And this is a question for each of you. So Rita, you can kick us off. How are you personally using AI in your workflow? And then a second part is, what's something that you found it's not quite good at yet?
So I work on a lot of content on a daily basis, like for Semrush Academy, and then for my own writing. For my own writing, I feel like I do the opposite of most people. I write everything myself, and then I use AI to edit. Like I don't. I'm someone I'm not afraid of the blank page. I actually really enjoy that I have an editor. That's been really nice. I do find that AI in general is too overly positive. I'm an optimistic glass half full type of person, but I don't have the same level of trust with their feedback as I would like a human editor that I really trusted. So I think there's some gaps there, and there's research to suggest that AI models in general are just overly optimistic across the board. So for Semrush Academy, we've tested a lot of AI tools. A lot of that, we produce a lot of video. So we've done a lot with HeyGen, a lot with 11 Labs, and trying out a bunch of like video avatar technology, like voice avatar technology. So that's been really interesting. Like I think the video avatar has potential, but it's still not quite there. Like, so we haven't rolled out anything, but we're continuously testing new things to try to see like what works, what doesn't work. Yeah, I think in terms of like the sort of like where it's missing, I think that missing the mark, was that your second question, I think, Victoria?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the human element, like, is that too like generic? I mean, I just, it just cannot replicate like an actual, I think, real perspective from a real human being that is living life and walking around and talking to people. I think that for me, maybe that is an old school perspective. Maybe the model will get so good in 5 years that I will like swallow my words, but I highly doubt it. I like really think that ironically what's happening is that AI is making it so that like truly human developed content is like the only one that will win, because everything else will be just a regurgitation of the same information over and over again.
Okay, I'd love to know too, Amanda. Same with you. I know you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning, but how you're using AI in your workflow, and like I said, something it's not quite good at yet.
I'll talk about operationally. I use AI to generate SOPs like crazy, because as teams get smaller and you start outsourcing a lot of projects, whether you have people in the Philippines, like my EA is in the Philippines, and as we outsource a lot of project-based work, there needs to be a lot of documentation on how to do what does an A plus look like for this task. And I will I'll record myself doing something on Loom, and then I will use Loom's AI to generate an SOP. And then that SOP is stored somewhere so that if I'm not there and somebody else is doing this task, they know exactly what an A+ looks like. And then in terms of gaps, I 100% agree. And again, maybe we will find out in 5 years that AI is so good that it thinks like a human, but emotion and storytelling, AI will never have our stories, right? Like if we think back to how was history passed down thousands of years ago, is through people talking and storytelling and their personal experience. And the MIT study just came out that people who are using AI for all things, like they're already showing the cognitive decrease of people. So we as a species, like I'll get on my little soapbox, but like we as a species, like our superpower is going to be creation and storytelling and innovation. I continue to advocate for like not outsourcing those things because we all see it already. Like AI has been around for like a minute and we already can smell an AI produced content on LinkedIn. And where you start to see and get excited is when someone's being vulnerable and raw and sharing a story that happened that they couldn't have produced because AI can't just make up stories about your life. So I think storytelling, not only as people, but as brands, is going to be really powerful that AI just can't do.
Thank you for sharing. Brianna, do you, love to hear your thoughts as well and how you're using AI in your workflow.
Yeah, I was very resistant at first to leverage AI. And I'm someone who I'm like, I want to learn everything about it before I like give it proprietary information. I just want to be cautious and careful. I'm a former journalist and read too much, investigated too much. So we were later to adopt it. But now, given that like literally no 2 days are the same, like there's always something going on. I think it's motion AI. Is it motion AI? Someone told me that motion AI is great for helping to prioritize schedules, tasks, helps you manage your time more effectively. So I leverage it in my personal life for that, as well as like running the business for that kind of stuff. I just want to piggyback on what Amanda said about like AI not being able to replicate storytelling. That is like a really big component. Like we use AI to help us synthesize things and to help us tighten language perhaps. But even so, like it all goes through a rigorous like critical analysis before it ever sees the light of day. Like, is this truly what we want to say? Is this something that I would say? Is this something that our audience would say? Like sometimes the lingo that ChatGPT comes up with, I'm like, who's saying that in real life? Who's talking like this? So it always goes through a critical lens before it gets distilled down into a piece of content or whatever that's public facing. So like, I definitely want to underscore that you cannot replicate our human ability to storytell and to communicate feelings, emotions, memories, and the way in which we just do.
I would say to bring it back to the full stack marketer conversation, I think that like ultimately we need the future, like the full stack marketers of now and the future, the effective ones are ones that are able to think critically. And I think like, as Amanda very well said, like there's already research saying that like we're starting to lose those skills and we got to fight it. Because I think that when I'm hiring people for my team, that's the number one thing I look at. Can you look at something and give me feedback and think through a problem? Can you think through it? Can you tell me why this is a good piece of writing or not? Tie it back to the customer, tie it back to the strategy of the business, tie it back to like to the impact that it might have. And the ability, that's something that like will not be in the short term replicated by AI. It's like we need to be able to take the output from this AI and reason and decide if it's good or not, improve it, tweak it. So anyway, I think that's a critical skill for like for the marketers of the future and like the marketers of today.
Now, before we move on from this AI conversation, was there anything else you wanted to add, all of you, about AI and marketing and the future?
There's one bit of AI and this is a shameless plug. I was introduced to it like maybe a few months ago, and I've been playing around with it, and it is crazy. It's called Gamma AI, and it helps design, craft, presentations in particular. It's amazing for pitch decks. Pitch decks are the bane of my existence, but we all need them, right? Like I hate pitch decks, and I have 1,000 pitch decks for tailored to different things, right? This tool is fantastic in moving things around, rearranging things, designing graphs, bar charts. It's fantastic. It's actually quite insane how it does it. So Gamma AI, for anyone who's like, oh, I have to put together a pitch deck or a presentation, like try it out first if you find yourself stuck.
Awesome. Amazing. All right, we have a few, I know time is like flying. I don't know about how you guys feel. It's like 15 minutes left. I'm like, oh my goodness. So we have a few kind of fun rapid fire questions, and then we can get into our live Q&A. So starting, I'd love to know, Brianna, what is the biggest marketing risk you've ever taken with Mudo or in your, previous jobs that has really paid off?
Yes, marketing risks. So the biggest risk that we ever launched or ever did was, okay, we're a fragrance label, right? It's no secret we're a fragrance label. We launched with one fragrance. I think that was the most insane thing that you can do, knowing that people's tastes are different when it comes to fragrances. But we bet really big and bold on one fragrance, Worthy, right? And how do you market a feeling of worthiness, right? Somehow, with lots of strategy, we were able to do so. And that was the biggest risk that we ever took. We launched one scent. From there, it went on to garner a lot of press. It went on to be named a hug in a bottle. Like it kind of just took off on its own. And that, I think, was important as a CPG brand with limited resources, capital, whatever, like to not go all in and launch 30,000 things at once as a new brand. Like no one knew who we were. So I think taking that risk and launching one thing that we really, really all truly, sincerely believed in afforded us with the trust and the credibility that we earned. And it afforded us with the ability to then go on and launch other fragrances because people are like, oh, we trust them now. Like we get it. So, I mean, it was the craziest thing ever, launching one fragrance and now building a company that's valued at over 10 million bucks off just one fragrance. Like, that's crazy. It's a risk that it paid off. So yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations. Because I know, it's very tempting to like want to do 10, 15 products. And it's like your story is just proof that sometimes like less is literally more, because that's incredible. So congratulations. Rita, I'd love, again, your hot take. Is there a marketing trend that you're just so over that is like overdone? You're like, yawn, can we move on, please?
I think my analytics people are not going to like this answer, but and I don't even know if this is a trend more than like an established practice, but I'm very over attribution. I just think that the space of marketing has become so complex. There's so many channels, there's so many touch points. Like the road from someone to like learning about your product or service to becoming a customer is so convoluted that us trying to put an attribution to every single touch point, I think is limiting our creativity and our critical thinking skills. So I think a lot of times, like I'd rather have someone to say, you know what, our customers want this. The attribution model doesn't say that because it probably can't measure it. We should just do it. So not that attribution doesn't have a place. I think it does, especially if you have a really large advertising budget, you need to justify that. But I just don't think that it should sit at the center of your marketing strategy in the environment that we operate in right now.
Amanda, is there from like a CMO POV, if there's a marketing trend that you're tired of seeing?
I just was like, yes, Rita, like just hearing that, like I feel like no marketer has the courage to say that, but it's so real. So thank you for saying that. When you first asked the question, the thing I thought of was just copy paste AI. Like I am so over anyone like we can see it from a mile away. As a CMO, if I receive a strategy from someone and I can tell that they literally put into AI, like give me a social media strategy with like I can tell. So you also have to become knowledgeable about the channel and use AI as the thought partner. But I'm so over copy paste.
Might I add one?
Go.
Because it's starting to really irk me. Rage bait marketing. Please. I think like we've seen instances where people have used rage bait content to spark very intentional conversations that have led to conversion down the line, right? But I've also witnessed it go the complete opposite way. Disaster, where you're risking credibility, you're risking trust, when in fact you could have just positioned yourself or just made a value statement that people could resonate with off the bat rather than tricking their minds into doing something else, right? So like rage bait marketing is like, it's cringe to me now.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's like not every brand is the Duolingo bird, or like I remember a ton of marketers were ripping apart Saratoga Springs water for not jumping on the 4 a.m. bro like ice bath thing. And it's like I'm so over the fact that not every brand has to jump on everything because it's not in line with their brand and where you want to live. And so many of us marketers specifically, we live in a bubble of marketers talking about marketing. And you have to remember that the general public probably didn't see the bro putting his face in the Saratoga Springs ice thing. So you have to also remember, I'm from the Midwest, and there's a phrase called "if it plays in Peoria." It's an old advertising phrase, but Peoria, Illinois is like literally kind of the center of America. And this phrase comes of like, if I were to go to Peoria, Illinois, be like, you know that Saratoga meme, most people would be like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And so that's why Saratoga didn't jump on it, because it's not for just marketers. So I think my one kind of like spicy take here is make sure that you're talking to customers and general audience and getting out of a marketing bubble, because it can feel like that.
I love that. Can I add one more? I love this. It's like a venting session. I love it. It's a circle of trust. I am very over marketing being overly focused on the top of the funnel. Like it just seems like every company I've ever worked for, the majority of the marketing team is focused on always getting new customers. It's like acquisition, acquisition, acquisition. And the sort of customer segment is ignored. Like the keeping of the customers happy, the connection with the product, making sure the product is really, really good so that when you acquire a customer, the value proposition actually rings true to what you were advertising for the top of the funnel. So I hope that marketing can move further down in more organizations, or at least there have be more equality between the top and the middle and the bottom of the funnel.
No, this is great. I'm like, we've got such a good rapport going. I don't want to be the, bummer and be like, okay, we have 10 minutes left. No, but thank you so much. I feel like, yeah, good to have a venting sesh. I'm sure a lot of folks can relate to in our audience. So yeah, we do have about 6-7 minutes ish for some of your questions. So if you haven't had the chance, feel free to add your question in the question little section of Bright Talk, and we will try our best to answer as much as we can. And obviously, if we didn't get to your question and it seemed really popular, we'll try to answer some in a follow-up email after this webinar. So stay tuned. I'm going to start off with one for our beginners and new grads. Ahmed wants to know, what should full stack marketer learn as a beginner with zero experience?
I'm happy to start. Okay, so when I think about kind of the different check boxes of being a marketer, here's mine. And please, both of you kind of jump in and poke some holes in it. So first, I always say there's got to be a manifesto. Like, why do we exist in the world? That leads to the brand strategy, right? Like, what is the brand strategy? What is the emotional features, the physical features and attributes, kind of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, the brand pyramid, right? That then brings out a voice and tone guide so that we all know who we are, how we talk, how we exist, how we show up in the world, the do's and don'ts, voice and tone guide. After that comes marketing strategy. Okay. What are the OKRs? What are the levers that you're going to pull for what time frame? Startups, the time frame shortens. As you get the company grows, you can extend those time frames, but marketing strategy. Then there's channel strategy, right? So marketing strategy is just how are we going to achieve the OKRs? What are the biggest like levers that you're going to pull? But then channel strategy. Do the channel owners know what success looks like for their channel and how it ladders up to the marketing strategy? To me, if you can understand the purpose and how to create each of those when you're coming into a company, or at least asking the questions, to me, when I hire somebody and they start asking those questions, they're like, hey, what is our marketing strategy? What is our brand strategy? That to me is a signal that they're understanding, like, okay, they're looking for these things and they're not just, again, coming in saying, how do we get more followers? How do we get this? It's like, maybe that's not our strategy. Maybe our strategy is actually to grow this like crazy advocacy of a micro community who is just like obsessed with us. So that's kind of how I think about the ladder of things to know.
I agree with that latter 100%. I think that if I was starting from the beginning, I would, if you have the intention of gaining the skills of a full stack marketer, I would just be like very thoughtful and strategic about the roles that you're looking at. I think that I was very lucky. I think what made me a full stack marketer was that I joined Zillow when it was in the steepest point of its ascent. It had just become a public company. It was in hyper growth. I was the first like digital marketing B2B hire in that team. So I got the opportunity because there were resources. The company was growing. I had a lot of opportunity to grow the team and to learn all the skills. I think if I had at that moment decided that I was going to become a social media marketer in Coca-Cola, very different path. I think I would have gone deep into social media in that role, but not necessarily built the skills that made me a full stack marketer really early in my career. So if you have the intention of being that, I think that as you're looking at jobs, think about that. Like, not just like, is the job one of a full stack marketer? Will it require me to like play around with a lot of different channels and make decisions? But I think, as Amanda said, like, if you're early in your career, there has to be a strategy that you can execute on. You're probably not ready to execute on that strategy yourself. So becoming a full stack marketer in a team where you have the support from like a strong marketing leadership team and the resources to help you accelerate your career, I think is a really good, it's a good step. So that would be my advice.
Brianna, anything you wanted to add? Oh, she might be frozen.
Yeah, am I frozen? Am I here? I'm here, right? Okay. I would just say leveraging transferable skills can take you really, really, really far. Especially like I was scrolling through some of the questions about like getting started or like, I don't know how to make the transition. Like you actually probably are further along than what you think based on what you've already done and the experiences that you've had. So rely on that. Like I went from journalism to brand marketing, like, and you're like, oh, how do you go from telling stories to crafting them? Is like, well, I mean, I'm a great storyteller, or I have an investigative background, like, or I love to communicate and talk and drive value that way. So how can you leverage transferable skills? And then also we just hired our first ever marketing intern, and it was a internship that didn't even exist. And I think Trinity might be on this call, so shout out to Trinity. But what made me decide to hire her was a skill that you cannot teach, which is being proactive and like not reactive. like she proactively created a deck on why she should be our intern. And although like I can instruct her on so many of the technicalities, right, that we've been talking about on this call, like I can't teach her to be a go-getter. So the fact that you guys are asking these questions about like, how do I do it? Like, again, you probably are further along than what you are leading yourself on to believe. And don't ask questions to have people give you the answers that you think. Rely on some of that intuition. Marketers are great intuitive people as well. So I'm sure that everyone just getting started is going to do well. Yeah.
I'll say too, one more thing for those of you that are in a like channel specific role, like email, SEO, social, and are thinking, how do I expand my skill set? For me, in addition to that pivotal sort of role that I had earlier in my career at Zillow, I am like a side hustler to the end of time. And like nothing will teach you to be a full stack marketer and marketing strategy than trying to start like your own e-commerce business. Just start a Shopify store. Trust me, you will learn SEO. Trust me, you will learn email. You will learn social. You will learn what channel works for what. And like start thinking critically about a lot of the advice that you see on LinkedIn, especially when it's your own money. It like those lessons are like really like hard learned.
I know there's so many good questions and I'm like, oh, we have 2 minutes left. So unfortunately, I am going to probably call it here. But as I said, we'd love to keep chatting and answering some more questions. So stay tuned for after the call for some follow-up emails. So thank you all for submitting your questions. We really appreciate all the engagement. And we could keep going forever. This has been so much fun. And obviously, most importantly, Rita, Amanda, Brianna, thank you from the bottom of my heart and all of us here today for sharing such valuable insights. I know I learned so much and I'm sure everyone else did too. But before we officially sign off and get on with the rest of our day, where can our audience find you if they'd like to stay connected and kind of keep following along on what you're all up to? Rita, maybe you go first.
You can find me on LinkedIn. I know there's an announcement for Semrush's conference, Spotlight in Amsterdam. I will also be there. Would love to meet any of you in person. Thank you for having me.
Amanda?
Yeah, I'm also active on LinkedIn, or you can go to amandagetz.com and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
Amazing. Okay, Brianna?
Yeah, I'm a chatty Cathy on Instagram. So you can find me at Brianna Arps on Instagram, also LinkedIn, Brianna Arps. But also please follow Mado Official on our socials. We would love to welcome you into our community.
Thank you all so much. Honestly, I had such a blast with you all today, and thank you for coming with such, like I said, invaluable advice. And to all of you who are still on, be sure to keep an eye out for an email from Girlboss/Semrush with a link to the replay so you can kind of go back to it on your own time. And yeah, thank you again, everyone. And we really hope to see you at the next one. So have a great rest of your day. Okay, bye.